You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Shocking Oval Office clash revealed as Trump's split with MAHA bursts open, based on an article by Daniel Hampton. Pesticides, Power, and the Performance of Concern, the real decision-makers. Last week's Oval Office fight was not a clash of ideas in the abstract. It was a meeting where institutional power sat in the room. Trump, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, and the farm lobby represented by American Farm Bureau Federation President Zippy Duvall. The immediate issue was an executive order promoting alternatives to conventional pesticides. Trump had been expected to sign it. Duvall pushed back because his members did not want the political and economic consequences. Trump asked his aides what to do. Rollins urged him on. He signed. That is the story in plain terms. A president, a cabinet secretary, a farm lobbyist, and an aide-class decision chain deciding which agricultural interests get protected and which get sacrificed. Who gets heard? Duvall's intervention is not courage in any democratic sense. It is organized economic leverage speaking for an entrenched industry that can threaten political support. Kennedy's side was not a popular uprising either. It was an anti-establishment brand trying to convert public anxiety about food systems into executive power. The people actually living with those food systems were nowhere near the center of decision-making. They were represented through lobbyists, former officials, and the private mythology of farmers as a political identity. Jonathan Lundgren's comments cut through the staging. He described farmers as sick right now and said, "We're literally killing our farmers with these food systems." That is the kind of sentence that should force policy, not just decorate a meeting. Instead, it became one more piece of leverage in a room built for bargaining. Kennedy's anti-establishment routine. Kennedy framed the order as a response to the Supreme Court's decision in Monsanto v. Darnell, where the court gave Bayer-owned Monsanto a win by shielding it from state failure-torn suits over glyphosate. He called the ruling a setback from MAHA and pushed Trump towards signing the order as a compensating gesture. That is not a strategy for public accountability. It is a substitution of executive theater for actual legal and regulatory responsibility. Kennedy once sued Monsanto as an environmental lawyer. Now he is inside the machinery trying to turn that history into authority. The contradiction matters. Anti-corporate language sounds sharper when it is aimed at a target, but inside government it often becomes a brand management tool. Enough righteous friction to look defiant, not enough structural disruption to threaten the system that produces the harm. The court cleared the path. The Supreme Court's 7-2 ruling is the real institutional fact with lasting consequence. The court protected a pesticide giant from state failure-torn claims, and that decision reduces accountability for corporate conduct around glyphosate. Trump's executive order, whatever language surrounded it, was never a substitute for that. It was a political countermove layered on top of a legal architecture already tilted toward industry insulation. That is how this country so often processes agricultural harm. Courts narrow liability, industry keeps its shield, and the White House stages a policy gesture that suggests responsiveness without challenging the deeper arrangement. The public gets symbolism. The corporation keeps its immunity. The pattern. The most revealing detail is not that Duvall resisted Trump or that Kennedy pushed him. It is that both sides treated the same executive order as a bargaining object inside a system where agriculture, health, and law are all subordinated to power blocks with access. The argument was intense, but intensity is not accountability. It is the sound of competing interests fighting over who gets to define harm. This is the recurring structure. Corporate power secures legal protection, political actors stage populist rebellion against it, and the final product is a decision made by people with offices, lawyers, and leverage. Farmers, consumers, and workers appear mainly as talking points in someone else's negotiation. That is not a malfunction. It is the system working exactly as designed. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article with the automated voice of LJ. Thanks for listening.